Welcome, Tyler, to Metaladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you. Again, we spoke 3 years ago for the, no, 2 years ago for the first album. Now
Yeah.
we were talking about, again, for this new album, Harper. It's a great pleasure. All the first album, love it. This new album is a different kind. This is not the same like this first album. But
Right.
meanwhile, we will start by asking how has band the being band during the last 2 years? Because the album, I remember that the album was released at the end of the pandemic. Now, but the band was very active, published videos, small tours, etc., etc. And I think you are finished a tour last week or this week, I think.
Yeah, last week we got back from Europe. We did we spent about a month out there. We got back last week and we start another one tomorrow or Saturday. So tomorrow's the last day we're in town, and then Saturday morning we leave. We do the rest of the month. We get back in October. We go out with Zayo and Your Spirit Dies for a lot of the shows coming up. And then the last 4 dates are with our friends from Birmingham, Alabama. They're called Stay Lost, a really cool hardcore band right now.
Okay. I remember when we spoke about the first album in transmission, that you told me that this album was composed before the pandemic, because everything before the pandemic. Now we have a second album during the end of the pandemic, and I think this new album here suffered the influence for the, well, perhaps the pandemic was in influence directly of the pandemic, or perhaps it was in the sessions of the last album, of your first album.
Yeah, it definitely evolved from the first one. The pandemic definitely got in the way of some of the things we wanted to do on In Transmission. But it actually gave us more time. We went back to record, actually added 2 or 3 songs. I can't remember how many at this point. It's been a couple of years. Added some to that album. And then from then, as soon as In Transmission was out, we had already started writing for Errors. So we had like 2 or 3 songs from that one. And it kind of just went, it took its own trajectory. It went its own way. We kind of just let it evolve as it was. And I think that's the word I would use to describe the new album. Is just it's definitely evolved in sound across all aspects.
Okay, well, at that time, I remember at that time the band was new. That's new. The first album, you entered to the Black Light Media, a sub label of the Metal Blade Records, etc. But now you are releasing the second album. Now all the focus, all the press are more focused in your next album upcoming. So whether perhaps do you feel some kind of pressure that this new album has now compared to the first one?
What pressure am I feeling is what you're saying?
Yes.
Well, the first album, I feel like there was a lot more pressure. It was because, as I've said in interviews before this, like I never really intended for a lot of people to hear the first album, and I never really intended for it to go as far as it did. So it was kind of like, oh wow, people like this. That's crazy to me. It was written for us and for me, and like and then it went as far as it did. So I was like, okay, we're releasing it on a major label now. A lot of people are going to hear this. Will they like it? I don't know. And I think in the writing process of Errors, I did have that sort of pressure where it was like, okay, people know what we're about. They have a certain sound that they expect to hear. They liked the first album. I kind of want to change up things from the first album. Now that people are listening to it, and I know that. So I had pressure in the writing process. And now, as it's about to be released in 2 weeks, I don't really feel any pressure. Like I'm super proud of this album, and it's one of the things where it's like, if you liked our first album, you're gonna love this album too, no matter how many things we've changed about it. And I feel like it'll be inviting to more new listeners that maybe didn't like the first album because it was chaotic and however, and if you don't like it, I don't care. So I don't feel much pressure.
Okay. Well, that is true. If I compare In Transmission, I remember that I found metal, punk, hardcore, degen, a lot of mixes, more chaotic. That's like I think the first album will be, and a lot of stuff there. You put a lot of influence into the first album, etc., etc. But I remember when I asked you the first interview, I asked about about this aspect to the You have a little madcore in between the lines, between the rims. Now this album is, you are right. This album is more like more simple in some ways, more comfortable in your sound, and obviously the sound is more it's not like dangerous like the first album.
Yeah.
So and related to the pandemic, perhaps because always the musician are very attached to the environment of the war, because the war was a chaos at that time. And perhaps that's why this album is more simple, more relaxed, no?
Yeah, well, some of the songs on In Transmission I had written. So we've been a band since 2015. And that was kind of like we had written so many songs up until 2021. So it was 5 years in the making, really, before we started recording it. So all the songs that were on there before Crow Lotus joined the band in 2018, we had a bunch of songs, and 3 of them actually made it onto In Transmission. She rewrote the lyrics for it and everything. So it's kind of like a best of where we were at the time. And even though I think the pandemic, you know, maybe inspired a slight chaos in that way, I think it's just the fact that like writing music for me is taking all of whatever's happening in my life at that time, you know, as far as like guitar riffs and things go. And I was locked into like toxic relationships with people, and you know, I was just coming out of years and years of addiction. So I think that was really where that chaos came from. Was I started the band fresh out of rehab, like a 6th rehab, and I was new in sobriety, and I kind of just put all of that out on the table. And so it was meant to be this almost like relentless, just driving force of an album. So it was supposed to just blast right through, no stops, no breaks, no breakdowns, you know. And then for this album, like, I think we really wanted to hone in on more of the musicianship. So my goal coming into Errors was to not necessarily like dumb it all down, but I wanted to structure it in more of a way to allow the vocalist to shine at certain times, or the drums to come in and the bass to shine at other times, rather than just like full force music, guitar, and then vocals over it. It's kind of like we all have our own little piece of the pie on this one.
Mm. Okay, another big change is not just musically for this new album, is the cover art, because the first cover art is black with a woman in there, etc. And now you decide completely white with a few lines of black. So why did you decide to change I think the whole concept of the band? And I think the logo too, the logo was changed too.
Yeah, we changed it. We changed it all up
Yeah.
because I think it's a point of evolution for the band. You know, it's like we don't want to do the same thing over and over and over again. And that's a problem that I have with music. Like, I'm slightly jaded when it comes to music these days. I've been playing since I was 9, and I live in a certain time period of music. It's hard for me to get into new bands, but even if I do, it's like there's so many bands out there that just keep writing the same album over and over and over again. And with this, I definitely wanted to step up our music, change it slightly, but not enough to where it's like, oh, this is a completely different band. And then as far as like logo goes, you know, we've had that for 7 years now. So we wanted to make it more simplistic and like borderline like iconic, classy looking, because we're not anything. We're not a metal band. We're not a punk band. We're not a hardcore band. We literally blend genres all across the board, and I think it describes who we are a little bit more.
Okay. I remember when we talk about the Intransmission, I remember I asked you about the lyrics, and you told me that the Locust Preacher, one song of the Intransmission, was taken in from the Dark Souls 3 again. And obviously the old songs is taken like the same way, all these kind of aspects. So for this new album, are you related all again lyrics from the games, or perhaps other kind of movies, etc.?
Well, it's not the lyrics of the Locust Preacher that are from the game. The actual title, the Locust Preacher, is a character that's in the DLC of Dark Souls 3. The lyrics are all from Crow Lotus. She writes that, you know, from inside and what she's feeling. And that one in particular was based upon her early age episodes with sleep paralysis. And for, you know, for the new album, I think we definitely do go with, I mean, naming songs is just, I don't know. That's a thing I've never truly cared about. So it's like, we don't want to put the name of the song that's like a lyric or anything. So I think there's a song called Kingslayer, and that is one of the weapons in, I think, Diablo 3 or something.
Kingslayer, yes.
And then our last song on the album is named Nora, which is the name of my dog. So we still take just references from our life and like and things we want to shout out and that we're fans and nerds about, honestly, and put it in there for people to relate to. But then you read the lyrics, it's completely different. It's just like, okay, you know, what's happening here? But
okay, and what do you decide to put this album Errors? Perhaps any special meaning of this name, because Errors for many people talks about the mistakes in life, mistakes in everything. So perhaps you have a special meaning for this title.
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly right. And I think it's Errors because it's a title that's easily open to interpretation within like you and you're like another person, whoever's listening. And it's almost a title of like, it's what it means to you. And even when we were naming it, like we all have different interpretations for what that title means to us and behind the music. And for me, it does come from like mistakes in life and like learning to not kind of dig into those mistakes and dwell on them, but to become like a better version of yourself from that. So for me, it was like, I mean, I struggled with addiction for over 10 years, and I struggle with mental health issues. And for things like that, it's like, it's just who you are, you know, you have to accept it. You have to overcome it and then become the best person you can be. So it's just, the errors are not what makes it is what makes us who we are at the end of the day.
Well, that is true. That's true. The mistakes, it's much better. Yeah, yes, that is true. Well, talking about, well, no, I remember when the band appears in 2021 with the first album Transmission. Nobody knows about the band, and now you did to. I saw that you did a lot of tours in 2022, now 2023, and perhaps for the next year you will embark in more tours. It's normal because the band grow up very fast. So what is your opinion about this aspect that the band grew very fast in the extreme metal or metal world?
I think that's just out of my control. We definitely have been behind this, and all of us have played music since we were really young. We've all been in bands. We know what we're doing, and we know where we want to go. And I think within our music, we definitely have a powerful message underlying the music. And I'm not too sure, like I can't control the level of how it grows. And of course I'm grateful and I'm excited about it and everything. It's great. I'm getting to play with some of my favorite bands, and we're making solid connections. So I think that's really what's behind it, is like you can put out good music all day, but if you're not out there connecting with your fans and you're not out networking with other bands, like seeing, hey, like what's the best trick to do this, or like seeing where they come from, I don't think you'll go much further. And I think we're all very good at that. And so I think that may have something to do with why we're able to get to where we are.
Okay. Now now Capra is a band with some miles in there. Now, since the beginning to now, you have more miles, you have more experience. You told me that you get more, you got more connections, strong connections with producers, festivals, etc., etc. So now, how do you see the old Tyler when the band started the band at 2015, and now with the new Tyler that they catch a lot of experience during these 8 years?
8 years, yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say like a new Tyler. I think it's just more, I would say maybe more experienced. I learned a lot in those 8 years. I played in another band early on, while I was in this band, which wasn't my band. I got the experience to go with them to Europe for the first time for 2 months. So I learned a bunch, on the road with that band, just figuring out, what goes on behind the scenes in other countries and touring with another band. And then while out there, I realized like, this is cool and everything, but like, I love my band.
Yeah.
I want to do this with like my people. And we just got the chance to do that. So I had some knowledge going in already. And I think it's just more, I don't know. I feel like we're getting more, I don't know the word for it. Like we're definitely like all tired, but we're more determined than ever to keep going and see how far we can take this. Like I'm not one to just sit and dwell. I think I said this in the first one too. Like I don't sit and dwell on like our accomplishments and what we're doing at the time. Because I want to stay focused and just keep going,
Okay. No, talking about the promotion from these new heroes, what kind of plans do you have for these new heroes? Perhaps you will embark on more tours. Perhaps you will come for the first time in Latin America. Who knows? You will do more videos, or perhaps you're preparing a new album. Who knows?
Yeah. Are you talking about like vinyl and stuff like that? Like what are we doing to get it out?
Yes. Well, perhaps when the album will release, what are your plans? Which are your plans for the future?
Oh, for the next steps. Okay, I see it. Well, we're on tour until like 3 days before it comes out, and then it'll be out. And we're actually taking, we've toured so much this year. We're taking October off, so we're just going to focus on that album release and like being here for anybody that wants to talk about it. Hear it. We are very proud of it, and we can't wait for people to hear it. November, we leave on the 1st, and we do it. There's like a small week-long tour where we got asked to play De Los Deftones in San Diego. So we're doing that with like Knocked Loose, Deftones, Pinback, and a bunch of really cool like mixed bill artists. And then we're coming back. I think I'm not sure we have anything in December, but we are planning to do our first Errors tour in the early parts of next year. So we just want to make sure everything's locked in, and we want to make sure just with all the touring we've done this year that we're kind of caught up in our personal lives and ready to go out and do something like that.
Okay. Now, talking about from other kind of aspects, not just because we spoke about the album, the difference from the first one to this new one, etc., and more experience. One thing that you told me last year, well, not last year, 2 years ago, is that your music is strange and weird in some aspects. So, but now that everything is very personalized and they're more strange, technical, progressive, experimental, avant-garde,
Yeah.
you know that. So now that everything is, and so things in many bands of the planet, this kind of aspect. So what do you think will happen to the next generations will listen to music that is very personal? Would you be taking about a closed world for the new bands? Because there will no longer a song on the radio because they prefer to listen to more personalized artists.
Yeah. I'm a huge advocate of all ages shows. So I think if we lose that aspect, music quite possibly could skip a generation. I think that's how I got into it. And I know that's how the generation before mine got into it, was going out, seeing live music, hearing it, and just having that as a release. So, and of course, yes, like their generation before mine and my generation, we had vinyl, we had CDs, we had cassette tapes, we had and I'm on the cusp. I was 8 years old when the internet was created. So I remember when Napster came out. I remember when all these downloading services came out, and I loved it. But I still bought albums and did that whole thing, which I think you know, people that do go to shows these days, they buy albums and everything. And I know people order albums for collectible purposes and vinyl and CDs and whatever. As far as like the new generation actually doing that, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they won't, maybe they will. I think it all ties in with allowing them to see music early and get that, because if you have just 18 plus shows, you know, they're at home playing video games. By the time they're 18, they're just fully hooked. They don't want to leave the house. They want to play games. They don't want to go see music. They don't want to listen to music. Hopefully these all the, you know, rock and roll, I believe will stay forever. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to see. I don't know.
Okay. And as you told me, we are in years where we are in years where there are no more bands that fill stadiums, and everything is personalized by tastes and colors, as I said. And now, thanks to TikTok, Instagram, there are trends that are really silly and even implausible. So because it's very annoying, these kind of aspects. So where do you think art enters in this generation that already consume little or nothing physical material and only takes music as an accompaniment of as a part of their life, like they working, washing the car, washing the laundry. It's not more serious like the 80s, 70s, or 90s, when the people listen to music and understand all album. Now it's different because you are working and you put in the radio, whatever is in the radio, I like it and or don't like it.
I get it. Yeah, it's like a mundane, boring society.
Yes.
And I hope we don't get to the point where like all of our songs and music videos need to be a minute long and shot in vertical just so that they can be a reel. That way somebody watches the entire music video. I hope not. I wouldn't. I don't think I'd ever do that. I'll probably, and I say probably, I'll guarantee I'll keep doing things the same no matter what, because this is the way it's got to be. I don't know where the world's going. It is kind of insane to think about that. Yeah, I don't know. That's depressing.
Yes. Well, it's
That's
difficult.
depressing.
It's difficult. I know.
That's depressing. I mean, the whole physical aspect, like maybe, you know, the world already streams more than anything. So, you know, maybe if we just have, there needs to be some sort of like, I can't do it. Like smaller bands like us, or it just, you've got to be on like a top-notch level to even fight with like Spotify or Apple Music to pay these artists what they deserve to be making. You know, you've got CEOs that are making millions to billions of dollars just by allowing others to listen to your music and your hard work, and you're making $17 a year off of it. It just doesn't make sense, you know? So I don't know.
Yeah, yes. And what is your opinion about now the reflex of the streams? You know, a lot of people are. I spoke 3 weeks ago with some artist. I think I can remember the name, and he told me that when I saw my streams on Spotify's 2 million streams for a song, for an album. Then when I spoke with Eclipse from Sweden. Yeah, I remember Eric Martinsen. So I spoke with him, and he told me when I saw iTunes, YouTube, digital, I saw a lot of streams, one song, two songs. But when the concerts of the gig happened in their city, just 100 or 150 or 200 appears to the show. So the media is not reflect completely the true listener that will everything went to do. So what's your opinion about this? Like this? No, I don't know why. It's like the ghost of the music, I think.
Yeah. I mean, streams are cool. I think it's a good way, you know, to allow people all over the world to listen to your music. That's great. I've always come from like a DIY background, and I never really saw myself making money doing music. So for me, there's a part of me that's just like, I don't really care about any of that. Like if you're listening to my music, that's awesome. I don't know how you can correlate Spotify streams to attendance at shows, just because it's like a worldwide streaming thing. So, you know, you do have targeted cities where like it'll tell you stats of, you know, which cities are listening to your music the most. And I think it's just old school. Like if you want people to come to your shows, you gotta mingle with your fans. You gotta get to know your fans. You gotta tell them like, hey, we're coming. You gotta get on a personal level. You can't really assume just by 2 million streams that people will show up, you know. And also, like you said, like they work all day, they're tired, they get into that mode where it's like, I don't care what I'm listening to right now. And I think that is one way the world's going, but you still have your diehards out there, and those are the people we want to connect with the most.
Okay. And one thing that you said about the DIYs, because in the 80s, 70s, and even at the beginnings of the beginnings of the 90s, all the music was shared by the DIY, doing tapes, CDs, escrita by themselves. But now we have a tool that perhaps is a counterproductive thing, because as you can see now, the AI is a useful tool for people who believe in the underground. Why I say this? Because you with the AI, you can create guitar, bass, voice, the cover art, and do it by yourself. That's the concept of DIY at the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So, but it's a curious thing that in all musicians now are, especially for the underground area, are very against the artificial intelligence. When the artificial intelligence brings all tools to bring to do the music possible. It's not like the 70s when you create everything, but it's possible now with the AI. So what is your opinion about now the AI taking a lot of interest into the entertainment area? No, it's not just the music, is the movies, is the etc. A lot of things happen with this AI. Is a revolutionary aspect.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. I mean, that's the world's getting lazier, I think, and that's what people, everybody wants cheap and easy. And I'm against it first, just because it takes work away from like real true artists, you know. So it's like I'm not gonna have a computer design me a cover art. I'm not gonna click a button, you know, 200 times just to get it right. You know, I want to we like to work with our like local friends. We like to work with people that we know and care about and like do art and like give them time to shine, and let them do their thing for what our music means to them. And you're not going to get that out of a computer just by typing in a few keywords. And I think about it in the aspect of like, you know, say you could take all the code words and the keywords that describe our band and our music, and it could write an album that you could listen to, and you'd be like, okay, I get a similar feeling. But it's not gonna go play it live, you know. Like we're out there, we're writing it, we're putting everything into it, and then we're taking it to fans to, you know, feel our amps playing these music and giving them a show and talking to them like people. And it's I'm truly scared for the way that the world is evolving.
Yes, that is true. That is true. Well, Tyler, the sad time has arrived at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. Yeah, as at the first one, you're a terrific guy. Love your band. I'm waiting for my pre-order to arrive here soon. I hope arrive soon. So perhaps you wanna add something to your Latin American fans and Metalerum followers.
Absolutely. We would love to come out there, and we hope to see everybody soon. You know, we're trying to get out to as many places as possible. So
Okay.
we can only be in so many places. Like I've been home for 7 days and I gotta leave again tomorrow. That's you know, I'm trying to get to a point where I can be at home for a little bit, even just to work on music. You know, it's like we're constantly just go. So but we eventually like we're coming over there. I would love to come out there, meet you, hang out, and do a cool show.